Hey, Jim, you hear DeAndre Hopkins is down to choosing between the Bills and the Chiefs, supposedly.
Hey man, look, let me tell you something. The Chiefs won a Super Bowl last year without DeAndre Hopkins, right?
Yeah.
So why do we need a DeAndre Hopkins now? Matter of fact, I ain't gonna say this too many times. Y'all can have him.
We'll take
Go
him.
ahead. Now, you need him. Y'all need him. But let me say this. Let me say this while I'm talking about DeAndre. Because you remember we did a little DeAndre skit a year or so ago.
Yeah.
And I kind of didn't really want to do it because I felt like we was making fun of the dude. We was making fun of him about his hair and whatnot. Hey, man, I got a lot of respect for DeAndre Hopkins. I got a lot of respect for him, man, because a lot of people don't know, man, DeAndre's mother's blind, you know.
Oh.
And you know, he even did a commercial and had his mother in there, man. So, hey, man, everything is not always perfect in the world. And the fact of that brother honoring and cherishing his mother like that, that young dude will always have respect in my heart. On second thought, yeah, we'll take him. Y'all don't deserve him. Nah, we'll take him. Come on over here to Kansas City. We love you, bro.
Got something to say, you wanted to play, then come running my way and ruin G status is dead. No, ready to go, about to go in, you already know. Got my instructions, now give me your audience, hand me your mic and I'm ready to blow. One for the money, two for the show, three for everybody who encouraged me to go, get it. We finally did it, I ain't never turning back, shawty. I'm fully committed to my beliefs, I'm committed to the city. I'm about to give them what they want, what they need, what they ask for. Give them what they want, what they need, what they ask for.
And now, from a QAnon quadruple fortified wine cellar in a compound in the heart of Appalachia, it's the unicorn of the unknown, the mouthpiece of America, the speaker of the secret, and the host of Jimspiracy, Jimmy Dodds.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Jimspiracy. I'm your host, Jimmy Dodds, a.k.a. Uncle Jimmy. Got my guy, my executive producer. I hate to tell you this, you don't know it, but I have to call him my best friend, Chris Foley over there. Chris, what's up with you, buddy?
I'm doing good. Thanks, man.
Listen here, before I go any further, let me tell y'all this. Our guest tonight is Dr. Peter McCullough. I'm so honored to have him on here because he's been one of the leading, listen to this, non-mainstream voices on vaccines. And tonight we're going to talk about Damar Hamlin, Jamie Foxx, vaccines, and a whole lot more. So do me a favor. Look at this mysterious post about the good doctor and Jamie Foxx. And hopefully he might be able to shed some light on what's actually going on
to
with
tease
Jamie,
it,
okay?
check this out. He actually had his picture taken with our guest tonight. And,
Says he's praying for you, Jamie. Hoping you held strong the whole time. You know what I'm talking about. You know, it's kind of hard to hold strong if you laying up on a ventilator and unable to breathe.
I don't know what they're talking about. So I want you to ask
you laying
the
up
good
here.
doctor.
No, man, he didn't hold up strong. I'm sorry. Man, what is wrong with me today, man? Good. I'm sorry, Dr. McCullough. Look, he'll be on the show in a little bit, man. And I promise you, I'm going to try to put on my best behavior suit and act like I got some sense, okay? Hey, man, listen. It's not in the script, but I got to ask you, man, because we got a lot of people that want to know, man. How have you been, man?
I'm feeling great, actually. I'm walking a couple miles every day, and I don't know. It's weird, stage 4 cancer, but I feel just fine. Really, the only thing I'm limited in is I can't run, so I'm not playing tennis anymore, but I feel good. And they tried putting me on a clinical trial, this past week, and that infusion had me go almost into shock. My blood pressure dropped, almost passed out. And that was on 30 milligrams of this experimental drug. And this week they want to give me 900 milligrams.
Don't do it, bro.
Yeah, I think I'm out.
No,
Because
don't do
this, if anyone wants to look up this alternative medicine I'm using, is called Fenben, and
I've heard of that.
yeah, the cancer stopped growing for the month after I stopped chemo. So I might as well just stick with that. And I'm also taking ivermectin, which we're going to talk about tonight in relation to COVID, but it's supposed to have some effect against cancer as well.
Listen, man, let me just say this because I hear you talking. You're talking about how you almost went into shock, and you and I talked about it. But this is why you need to stay prayed up.
Yeah.
This is why you need to have that little abundancy of prayers on the shelf back there, because you never know. We'd be like, "Oh, we got some prayer tickets. We got some prayer tickets." Because otherwise, hey, man, I'm glad you're good, man. I'm glad you're all right.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm doing good.
Hey, man, and you got a lot of friends out here that ask about you and they want to know how is Chris. And hey, man, we got you in our prayers, man. You and Mary Beth, okay? All right, man. Let's get on with this show. And by the way, I got some other things I'm gonna talk to you about.
You got a family story I want you to tell too.
Which one?
You went to a graduation last week.
Oh, okay. Yes, I did. That's
so tell us who that
granddaughter.
is.
That's Anaya Jewell. She graduated from Piper High School, man. Look at her. Look at her. She looks just like her poppy, don't she? She looks just like her poppy. Yes, man. That was that was a wonderful moment, man. That was a wonderful moment, and I'm so proud of her, and I'm just proud of her, man. That was one of those moments in life that you just thank God for, man.
Congrats.
Honest
That's
to
awesome.
goodness, I can't add anything extra to it, man. I was just so proud of her, and that's that, man. Look, you making me misty-eyed, man. I forgot about that. Come on, man. Let's keep going. And I'm done with it.
All right, Jim, I wanted to do the first headline.
Okay.
It's Sister Wilhelmina. Have you heard of this?
No, Chris, I haven't. Man, we could never do. Whoa.
Check this out. This sister,
She
died 4 years ago, and they dug her up, and she's wholly intact. She wasn't even embalmed.
Bro, that's a real sister.
Yeah.
That's a real sister.
She died at, yeah, she's a sister. She died at 95 years old 4 years ago. Their graveyard was flooding, so they dug her up to get her to a better spot. And lo and behold, she hasn't deteriorated, even though she wasn't even embalmed.
See, you know what that is? That's what they mean when they tell you that good black don't crack. That's what that is. That's the phrase. Good black don't crack. Okay?
Yes, sir.
No embalming, no artificial fillers. That's just the goodness of God showing all about you. That's a beautiful thing, man. I'm glad. Thank you. See, you must have known. See, I've been getting flack because every time we always doing something about some Catholics and this, and I got people going, "Hey, man, it ain't that many black Catholics." Yes, it is. Now, come on.
There's a few out there. Jim,
right,
I think I told you I've been trying to get a movie off the ground about the first black American priest. So if anyone wants to look that up, it's at acrossmovie.com, Father Tolton. So
Yes, you told me about that.
yeah, he was a great man.
Told me about that.
Kind of like he actually escaped slavery, so it's kind of like pre-civil rights, civil rights. And this nun, she's near you, Gower, Missouri. I think it's less than a half an hour from KC.
Wow. Okay, I thought that was over in Rome somewhere.
Nope, Missouri.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Hey man, I'm glad you showed me that. That's something for us to go back and look back on.
Yeah.
Tell me this:
Thousands of
is
people
that
are flocking to pray there the past week. Kind of neat.
okay? Let me ask this: that's not the lady. That's not the character that Whoopi Goldberg played in Sister Act, is it?
Don't think so.
Okay, all right. Let's keep going. Let's keep going.
All right. Next, I got a video for you to react to. Do you remember
You
Ricky
like my
Schroeder?
reactions to- That's the silver.
Remember that little kid?
That's the Silver Forks kid.
Yeah, he's all grown up.
Child actor Rick Schroeder recently released a video of a childhood experience he had in Hollywood where he believes he met members of this cult.
Let me explain. When I was young, I couldn't drive yet. I was hanging out with the older guys out on Point Doom, and somebody popped in a cassette tape into a VHS player, and there was a room with a body, I believe it was a male, laying on a table, and people came around the room. It was dimly lit, but they had hoods and robes on, and they had some sort of ritual where they took out a knife and they cut him down the side. It was his right side, and they took out parts of him, and the blood started flowing, and they were chanting, and there was women there, and they took off their clothes, and then they took the blood and they smeared it on their bodies and started to be sexual with each other.
And there's more. I didn't play the whole thing, but
Thank you.
yeah. What do you think?
Isn't that what Alex Jones talked about in the Bohemian Grove
Yeah.
deal? Isn't that some of the stuff that, I mean, is this the first time we've heard about that?
Definitely not. There's a lot of pictures. And by the way, there's a guy who's become a kind of Twitter sensation in the past month named Dom Luker. He's right here in Nashville, black guy. He posts pictures every day of like celebrities with bodies laying out on the table at parties and stuff. He posted one today with Hugh Jackman, another one the day before with Lady Gaga. So the stuff is twisted.
On that note, I don't know if you have this, but have you heard what because Justin Bieber had a video out a few years ago
Yes.
that was
I
kind of
grabbed that.
like that. Yeah, yeah. Justin said that his facial paralysis, and for those of you that don't know, yeah, see that whole eye, that side of his face
Yeah.
there? He said that it was punishment for him exposing the Illuminati for pedophilia.
Yeah. They go
And
after
it
the
also
famous
said-
kids.
Yes, he's one of the famous kids.
Yeah.
We don't realize it, but he's also a member of Puffy's boot camp.
Yeah. We're going to
And
talk
I
about
mean,
that
seriously.
later.
Yeah, now, well, I'm saying, but we heard about Usher going through Puffy's boot camp. Well, I didn't realize that Justin Bieber also went through it. So, I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. And also, you see that he said, if you read this article, he said that his wife had a medical condition. I don't know if they said she had a stroke or something happened, but it's all because of him beginning to shed light on what's going on.
Yeah. It's pretty twisted.
I mean,
And,
I think you have two Hollywood stars, and both of these stars are telling you what it takes in order to make it in that industry.
They're going after the kids, Jim. That's what the Target thing is about.
Okay. Well,
Especially celebrity kids. I
The
got one
floor
more
is
for
yours,
you.
Chris. What's the next one we're getting ready to
Yeah.
talk about?
Beyonce. And her little kid's coming on stage with her during her kind of sexualized concert. I have a little clip of it.
Okay, look right there. Look. Now, is that a man right there next to her, or what is that right there next to? Is that a? Look, let me say this. People are spending thousands upon thousands of dollars. Marriages are breaking up. People are spending their life savings to go see Beyonce. Bro, don't you know how you couldn't pay me to go see it? You couldn't pay me to go see a Beyonce concert. Not because I don't think I would enjoy it. Not because I don't think it would be nice. I'm afraid of what you will do to me in my brain that I have no idea that you're doing it to me in my brain.
Yeah.
And I mean that. I there's no joke there. I could make a funny joke, but I've seen parts of this concert. I've seen she's a big sponsor of the LGBTQYN or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, she's real big on that. On her album, she let that be known. So if you are as an adult, if you are supporting that, right? Okay, then you do it. See, and when I grew up, it was a thing called you stay out of grown folks' business. Well, if that's what you're doing, if that's what you're supporting, why in the hell would you bring your kids into that, man?
Yeah, for sure.
Why would you? Unless you just, and that's one of the things we have to realize about Hollywood also. Hollywood can't be Hollywood if you don't get some kids in there. Kids are who keeps this thing going on. So to me, that's just, hey, you got to keep it rolling. You got to keep it going. I mean, you got Kim Kardashian leaving her, putting her kids out there. Everybody's doing that. I couldn't do it to my kid, man. That's all, man.
And by the way, if you guys missed a show we did last summer about Beyonce and the occult, look that up on our YouTube page or our Rumble page.
Man, but anyway. And I used to like Beyonce. When it was 4 of them. But anyway, okay. Come on. I'm done, man. Let's.
We got one more headline here. Gotta talk aliens. Where did I put this headline?
But of course.
I lost the headline. Give me a second here.
Go figure. That's your fault. That was you talking about their queen. That was you. That's what happens. See
there
that?
It is.
Matter of fact, I see smoke coming from your computer.
So they're saying it's a new UFO story. Fox News talked to this guy this past week, but it actually happened 2 years ago. And the lights were like in a V shape. That's a photo from that night in 2021. What do you think?
He's got over 1,000 pictures and recordings of this.
Oh, wow.
So he's been actively involved in following this. The military base that was over is 29 Palms, California.
Yeah.
My old stomping grounds.
I lived in LA for 10 years too. Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're out there on that desert, when you're out there, the sky it's different than in the city where you have all the city light.
Yeah.
Okay. So it gets, I don't want to use the word creepy, but it gets scary as hell. Okay. The thing about this, Chris, is you hear about UFO stories. And one of the things I wondered, I'm like, we don't hear about new stories. And this is one reason we don't hear about them, because this is if you look at it, you go, oh, this just happened. No, man, that was 2 years ago. And now it's just now coming out. Okay. Now, let me ask you this. Now, when you hear these stories, remember they used to be called flying saucers?
Yeah.
Well, now you're seeing these V-shaped.
Yeah.
So I wonder, is this a different breed of alien? Or is the flying saucer like the Studebaker of unidentified flying objects? Is this the new generation of flying objects? But the other thing I will say is about asking about are these new models? Notice that a lot of our new military aircraft are triangularly shaped. They have that V shape to them.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, man. I heard somebody say, and it's our guy that didn't want to come on the show, Dave Politis.
Yeah.
Is that his name?
411.
Yeah.
He's great.
I was watching something with him, and they said that if there's anything that the United States can't explain, if there's anything they can't explain, we'll never hear about it. So this is one of those things. Keep it up. And I think one of the things that also bothers me, if I can say this, don't be surprised if you start hearing about, next thing you'll be seeing these pictures and you're going to start seeing lasers shoot out, and you're going to hear that they attacked the city. And all I'm going to tell you is this. I'm going to say 3 words. 911. 9/11. So before you say, oh, America wouldn't kill their own people, 911. All right,
and I'll go where we went on an episode last summer also. I like the theory that these aliens are demons. So check out that episode too.
Wow. We're going to have to get our guy, Nathaniel J. Gillis, back on here.
Yeah, interesting guy.
Yes. What else we got going on? Is that it?
That's it. We're going to play a clip of our guest, Dr. McCullough, before we go to him. And I just wanted to let everyone know that we don't know exactly what YouTube is going to do with this episode, because we're going to be talking COVID. And every time we talk COVID, we're in danger of being taken down, getting a strike. We already have 1 strike for our embalmer episode. So
can I tell the people of YouTube, can I just make a statement? That was Chris that did that, y'all. That wasn't me. That was Chris that did that, okay? All right, go ahead.
Well, I just want everyone, what we may do here on YouTube is edit this interview, but the full thing will be up on our Rumble page. So just Google Jimspiracy or put Jimspiracy in the search bar on Rumble, because it may happen like our Croaked Suddenly episode. We may not be able to play the whole thing. So make sure to follow us on Rumble.
We don't always know until we try to post it, okay?
Yes, exactly.
Hey, all right. Hey, man, let's find out. Go to rumble.com, search for Jimspiracy to see the full episode, all right?
All right, so before we get to Dr. McCullough, here's a clip of him testifying at a conference in Arizona last week.
Who was in charge of commerce operations in the White House, called me early in the pandemic because the United States government had secured a strategic stockpile of hydroxychloroquine. And he was very anxious to get this distributed out to Americans. And people within the White House, including Rick Bright, were actively blocking his ability to do that. Rick Bright subsequently has joined the vaccine consortium Rockefeller Foundation. To give you an idea, Clive Palmer, a former member of parliament in Australia, secured an entire stockpile of hydroxychloroquine for the entire country of Australia. The Australian government seized it and destroyed the stockpile. So what happened worldwide was a systematic suppression of early treatment in order to, I believe, front this vaccine agenda. If hydroxychloroquine did not work, these governments and these people wouldn't care, right? Because if it was completely inert and it didn't work, they wouldn't care. They actually took illegal actions to prevent people from receiving hydroxychloroquine, and similar things happen with ivermectin.
I guess you all just heard that. That, my friends, is our featured guest tonight. His name is Dr. Peter McCullough. He's an internist, a cardiologist, an epidemiologist, and the chief scientific officer of the Wellness Company. Since the onset of the pandemic, Dr. McCullough has dozens of peer-reviewed publications on the infection and has commentated extensively on the medical response to the COVID-19 crisis. Dr. McCullough is one of the most published cardiologists ever in America, with over 1,000 publications and 660 citations in the National Library of Medicine. He's a recipient of the Simon Dack Award from the American College of Cardiology and the International Vicenza Award in Critical Care Neuropathy. For those of you who don't know, that's the kidneys, for his scholarship and research. Before I get started, Chris, why did you have to put all those big words, man? How come you just couldn't say that Dr. McCullough's a real smart dude? Dr. McCullough, thank you for joining us here on Jimspiracy. How are you doing, sir?
Well, thanks for having me. It's great to be on the program. Don't worry about tackling those tough words. You know, doctors do that. That's part of our mystique, is to have a bunch of words you can't pronounce, kind of keep everybody, on edge about what the next medical story will be. But we do use a lot of big words. It's called medical terminology. Most of it's related to Latin. But I've focused largely on heart and kidney disease through my career. And then when COVID-19 hit, I really turned all my focus to the infection, the pandemic response, and now the vaccines.
Doctor, you're getting the word out. Like in the clip we just played, where you're talking about the ivermectin. I've had COVID twice, and I was an avid supporter of the ivermectin, but it also became a time where we ran into a shortage of ivermectin. What happened there? I mean, what was going on there that the government didn't want us taking ivermectin? What was the problem?
Yeah, in my view, I don't think there was any supply chain problems, but there were some clearly stated campaigns that were trying to dissuade anyone from taking ivermectin. The best known one is in September of 2021. The American Medical Association started a campaign to, quote, abolish the use of ivermectin, abolish its use, end quote. Now, why would a medical association, which is like a doctor's, support group, why would they want to abolish the use of one particular medicine? Why would they care? If doctors found ivermectin useful and it was working in clinical trials and we used it in conjunction with other, why would they care that we used a safe and generic medicine? Ivermectin's safer than Tylenol. So I'm raising the issue because I think the American Medical Association and the FDA and the CDC and all the other agencies and associations that tried to squash the use of ivermectin, I think that they were, in a sense, in a conspiracy or a conspiratorial relationship with the vaccine manufacturers because they were trying to advance the vaccine-only agenda.
Doctor, let me go with me for a minute because I might jump around a little bit, but this is America. And one of our rights in America is we have free speech, right? But now I find myself and we find ourselves in a situation where we have free speech versus what YouTube has become. and all of the dumbness and the stupidness that's on YouTube. We hear Jim Spiracy did a show, it's maybe 2 or 3 episodes ago, and we got banned. And in our episode, we were talking to embalmers. And what is going on in our country that we can't talk about what you're talking about right now? What is it that's pissing Americans off, or the powers to be? What's going on?
What we've termed in my book, Courage to Face COVID-19, is what we call a biopharmaceutical complex. Biopharmaceutical complex is basically a syndicate of some of the world's most powerful organizations. They include the World Health Organization, World Economic Forum, Gates Foundation, Rockefeller Foundation, Wellcome Trust, CEPI, the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness and Innovation, formed by Gates Foundation and World Economic Forum. The WHO, which is funded 80% by the Gates Foundation and the Chinese Communist Party. And then you have the vaccine manufacturers, and all the vaccine manufacturers are with this complex. Now, the complex, particularly CEPI states that there will be viral pandemics and there will be only one response, and that is mass vaccination. So this complex has already said their goal is mass vaccination, not treating sick patients, mass vaccination. So what's going on here is they have basically said anything that leads to vaccine hesitancy in the media, that means someone would be reluctant to take a vaccine, they're going to squash it because they're the biopharmaceutical complex. And the British broadcasting company BBC announced the Trusted News Initiative one day before Pfizer launched its vaccine. And what they said is anything out there on vaccine safety, anything out there on treating COVID and avoiding the vaccine, they're going to crush because they don't want to have any vaccine hesitancy. They want people to take vaccines without any question. That's the reason why you show blood clots developing and the embalmers reporting it largely in now that the new world of vaccinated people, they're going to crush it. And they did.
You were on Joe Rogan. Okay. And the problem that I have is it seems like comedians like Joe Rogan and Bill Maher, it seems like they're the only ones that's taking this thing seriously. Then you have the legacy, i.e. your mainstream media. They try to discredit you. And I was watching a video of you and they were talking about your Joe Rogan interview. And I found it very interesting that they were trying to discredit you, but in the same breath, all three of them were saying, but yeah, he could be kind of right. What? Explain that to me, please, doctor. Please. Or did I just miss it?
No, you got it. I went on Joe Rogan in December of 2021. And, he normally gets about 10 million views. And what I understand is within a week or two, he got 4 million views and it blew up. I mean, then the Spotify and Neil Young and Barbara Streisand and President Biden and Jen Psaki, everyone was talking about the McCullough Rogan interview. So then it just went through all these different slices and dices, and it basically went up and set all records on his podcast, and he's got the biggest podcast. So I was like, wait a minute, how can a doctor go on Joe Rogan and set all the records? Well, what I did is I showed up with my computer, and all I did was show scientific data. I was completely accurate on every single statement. And so immediately people came out and said, well, Dr. McCullough was, pushing something. I said, okay, you should tell me what I'm pushing. The transcript came out. And you know what the top term that we talked about was? Monoclonal antibodies, because Joe Rogan had received them. All I was doing was reviewing safe and effective treatments for COVID-19, and I went through all the information. But people were outraged that the truth was getting out. people were outraged. And so it finally got to the point of the White House, and I volunteered to go to the White House, go over with the president. I'll go over all the papers, and I can tell you there's nobody in Washington that wants to review the science right now. And when they hear it, they feel threatened.
Help me out with this, doctor. The United States just recently, within the last month, 2 months, they just announced that the pandemic is over. Okay? What say you, sir? What is it that you have to say? What is your response to that?
Hallelujah. Finally, the White House. Remember, with pandemics, there is the national emergency that's declared by the president. And then there's the health emergency that's declared by the Secretary of Health and Human Services. That would be Secretary Becerra. So basically, the emergency is over with. I can tell you as a doctor, since I and my colleagues, we had to manage the emergency, not the government. It was doctors and hospitals. So the emergency for us was over with January of 2021. That's when the peak hospitalization crested. We had enough capacity. We didn't overflow our hospitals. And ever since that time, hospital census went down. So the real emergency was over with January 2021. They kept it going for another 2 years as a government emergency. Well, the government doesn't treat patients. They didn't have any pressure points. They weren't up at night handling sick patients or phone calls. We were. So I can tell you they carried this on for another 2 years, I think largely as an administrative action, and it dealt with a lot of flows of financial money. And the money went out there to, so many different sources, from testing to personal protective equipment to hospitals to businesses. Clearly, the vaccine manufacturers made just tremendous amounts of money. And what we learned is that when the emergency was finally ended, the emergency countermeasures were not stopped. So the very first thing that should have happened is all the vaccines should have been pulled off the market because they're emergency vaccines. The emergency is over with. So the first thing we heard from Caliph, who's the FDA commissioner, is, well, the vaccines aren't going to stop even if the emergency is over with. And immediately people started saying, wait a minute, that's not fair. That's what the whole emergency is about, was about the vaccines. The vaccines ought to go since the emergency is over with.
I'm going to ask this question because I can go into conversations about the vaccine, but do Americans care anymore? Or, because we have such short-term memories. Do they care anymore? Or is this just something else that we've allowed to happen to us? Because I guarantee you we haven't heard the end of this. I guarantee you years from now, there's gonna be reports about what happened during this pandemic, epidemic, whatever you want to call it. But do people care anymore, doctor?
I don't think people care, provided they're not at risk. Now, we know in the paper from Clausen and colleagues, 94% of us have already had COVID. 97% of us are already through it. You've already had it twice. Once you're through it, you have a 0% chance of being hospitalized with the next illness. A lot of people aren't even getting tests. It's like a common cold. So I think the answer is no. People don't care. They want it to be over with. They don't want to hear the word COVID anymore. They want to move on with life.
Bill Maher recently slammed the lockdowns. Also, we had the lead singer of the group, the Smashing Pumpkins, talking about the lockdowns and how unnecessarily they were. Do you think we're done with the lockdowns, or do you think that they're going to try to bring them back? What's your thought about that?
Boy, there was a hint of this from Tedros. Tedros, he doesn't have a medical degree at all. He's the head of the World Health Organization. He said that there's a next wave of COVID, which is going to be far worse than anything we've seen. Vaccine developer Dr. Peter Hotez in Houston just had an article out in the Houston Chronicle saying that COVID-19 was just a warm-up for what he thought was coming. Both of these people seem like they're very lathered up, almost enthusiastic about another worldwide threat. I don't see it coming. The natural immunity is far more powerful than what these doctors think. And we have a situation now where you're right, people have slammed the lockdowns. We know that in October of 2020, the Great Barrington Declaration was published, which said we should not lock down. We should just protect our seniors, take special measures for them. The lockdowns caused harm. Social distancing didn't work. Masks didn't work. Vaccines clearly didn't work. The only thing that worked was virucidal nasal hygiene methods like nasal sprays and gargles, and then early treatment. So our focus should have been there. That's what it would have cut down on the spread, as well as keeping people out of the hospitals. And we had the attention on things that absolutely didn't work, including the entire White House task force was focused on things that failed.
Doctor, help me out here and help our viewers out. What's the purpose in hiding the truth? I mean, what is the purpose in hiding the truth?
The stated objective of, let's take CEPI, the Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness and Innovation, the CDC, the NIH, and FDA, their sole objective was mass vaccination. And so I think hiding the truth has been viewed as a necessary evil, if you will, in order to advance the vaccine agenda. But if you look at every single statement by the FDA, CDC, the WHO, it's all about continued pressure on having everyone vaccinated every 6 months.
Why? What the hell is going on with this vaccine that every American has to have this? Not just every American, because I think we as Americans, we think, oh, this is just happening in America. No, this is going on all over the world. Or maybe I'm crazy. But why?
There is a viewpoint that every single human being in the world has to take these shots down to 6-month-old babies. And on the surface, they've never stopped the infection. They've never stopped transmission. They've never been shown to reduce hospitalization or death in a proper randomized trial. They don't reduce severity of disease. They basically don't work. And on the other hand, safety-wise, there's over 3,400 peer-reviewed manuscripts showing serious safety syndromes, fatal and non-fatal syndromes, heart damage, heart attacks, blood clots, cardiac arrest, brain hemorrhage, stroke, immunologic syndromes. I mean, it keeps going and going. So
sudden infant death syndrome on the infants, on the babies.
I know, Jim, the intention of mass vaccination is not supported by the science. And so it's raising the question, it's raising the Jim-spiracy that there's another motive. And everybody wants to know the motive. We'll never know unless we just ask the people who are promoting the vaccines. Someone's going to have to ask Robert Califf, who's the FDA commissioner, why is he promoting these vaccines? Or the CDC director. Or we can ask, two presidents. You could ask Trump or Biden. They're still promoting the vaccines. We have to.
I don't want to ask. I don't want to ask Dr. Fauci.
Well, he's out of office. Yeah, he's out of office. Francis Collins is out of office. Walensky is out of office. Trump is out of office. Pence. You can go through the list. Many of the people who got this started, they're out of office right now. But the idea is there still are people promoting these. We should ask them. Somebody should ask them why. And what we've heard, the final statements from Walensky is, well, they protect you from getting severe disease. Well, there are no valid studies that show that. So how can that possibly be the reason? So what we're seeing doesn't add up. Everyone's been through this. People don't need vaccines. On December 7th, 2022, I called for them to be removed off the market in the U.S. Senate. Get them off the market. We don't need these COVID vaccines.
Speaking of damage, we're talking about after you get a vaccine or whatever. I'm going to throw a couple of names out there at you. Damar Hamlin. Are you familiar with Damar Hamlin? The
I am. You know,
quarterback
people
for the
saw
Buffalo.
me. I was on. Yeah. Well, listen. I was on Tucker Carlson. Within 24 hours of him having a cardiac arrest on the field, he had a primary cardiac arrest, and it wasn't commodio cordis as stated there. That was ruled out
I was
right
getting
away.
ready to ask that.
Yeah, the pads protect against commodio cordis. It wasn't that at all. Commodio cordis is when you get hit with a baseball at 100 miles an hour in the breastbone at the right time in the cardiac cycle, and the player goes right down. He popped up right away after the tackle. It wasn't commodio cordis. He had a primary cardiac arrest, and what I told Tucker Carlson is I think he had. See how he popped up? That's not commodio cordis.
Right.
Then he goes down. That's ventricular tachycardia. I think he had COVID vaccine myocarditis. And that's what caused his cardiac arrest. I bet he took a shot or 2 shots in the last year or so. And now he's in a situation where his doctors and the league, they don't want to come to that conclusion. So they've allowed him to claim that he had commodio cordis. He's going to go back on the field, or he says, without having an ICD. He'll be the first player in history to do that.
Okay. On that note, if you get a serious vax-related injury, how do you come back, or can you come back 100%?
Not a cardiac arrest. Now, even if it's due to another cause and not the vaccine, when there's a primary cardiac arrest, they get an implantable defibrillator. So they typically retire from sports. They can do other things and have a normal life, but the risk of a cardiac arrest with sports is just too high. No one would ever take that risk. So remember, no player in the NFL has ever had a diagnosis of commodio cordis. No player has ever had a cardiac arrest on the field and come back without a defibrillator in any pro sport. And so he's breaking all of the conventions right now, and I think it's very risky.
Doctor, I want you to take a look at this clip right here of Damar Hamlin while he's in. I don't know if you've seen the interview with him and Michael Strahan, but I just want you to take a look at this, and I got a question for you, okay?
From the ICU, the question on so many minds, what caused his heart to stop beating?
You're 24, peak physical condition, could run circles around me right now. How did doctors describe what happened to you?
That's something I want to stay away from.
Okay. Who's lying? Are the medical officials lying, or is Damar lying? Did you look at his eyes?
Yeah,
did you see?
He's lying. He's lying. The doctors told him they think it was probably the vaccine. He got to some position. A month later, he says, "Oh, I know what I have. I have commodio cordis," and of course, he doesn't have that. But the Bills doctors, the University of Cincinnati doctors, the NFL doctors, they should have come out and had a press conference and say, "Listen, he took the vaccine. We believe he has COVID-19 vaccine-induced myocarditis," and just been fair. They should. Other lives are at risk. And what they're afraid of, again, they're afraid of vaccine hesitancy, that if they come out and tell the truth, then other people won't take the vaccine. And they're using vaccine hesitancy as their justification for not telling the truth.
Okay, I got one more let me ask you about. Jamie Foxx. There's a picture of you and him. Okay, can you add some details? Because you said in the picture, you said, hoping you held strong the whole time. And you know what I'm talking about. What the hell was you talking about, Doc?
We had a personal conversation. I really want Jamie to come out and, I want him to tell America what happened. And I'm giving him an opportunity to tell the truth. It looked like Damar Hamlin did not tell the country the truth. Jamie's got an opportunity now. I'm told he's been in a hospital with a month with a complicated stroke. I'll tell you what, when I have a patient in the hospital with a stroke, they're in and out in a couple of days. If someone's in for a month, it's a serious situation, or they go to rehab a young man. And let me tell you, Jamie Foxx, he's younger than I am. He's fit and strong. So I want him to come out. If he wants me to come on TV with him and help go through this, I will. But that's up to him. Sooner or later, these public figures, Jim, are going to have to tell the public the truth.
Why? You think they're going to jeopardize millions just for the truth of mankind?
More people are going to be hurt unless people come out and tell the truth. We've had so many people, Justin Bieber and his wife, and Marvin Hagler, and the CNN legal correspondent.
Yes.
You can go on and on and on and on, and until they come out and tell the truth, more people will be hurt. It's up to them. I've been very clear and truthful with America. People know that. I've testified in the Senate, multiple state senates. I've been as very clear. But it's time for the public figures to come out and tell the truth.
Where was this picture with you and Jamie taken at, if I may ask?
Oh, we were at a Cowboys game.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, that'll do it every time. Let me. I was. The one thing about Jamie is that there's a couple of stories going around about what happened to Jamie, and one of the things was he was getting ready. He was making some. He was telling some stories about a Hollywood big name rapper, i.e. Sean Puffy Combs. Okay. So I guess my question is, do you think that maybe because I guess his daughter or somebody said that he was out of the hospital and said that he was playing pickleball. Okay. Do you think he could have got in trouble for playing pickleball with Puffy?
I don't know. I can't conjecture.
That was a joke, doctor. You don't have to answer that. That was a joke.
But, Jimmy, I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is whether it's an organic atherosclerotic stroke, a blood clot, drug abuse, the vaccine, the public figures always serve their fans well, and they serve the public well by telling the truth. This idea that they're worried about a contract, or they're worried about, I've had NFL players tell me, oh, I'm worried about my contract. I said, suddenly they're no good at football for telling the truth? Come on, man. People have to have some confidence. Suddenly Jamie's not a good actor anymore? Come on. This is a bunch of bull. People have to have some confidence in themselves, and they can really help others by telling the truth. They don't have confidentiality and anonymity because when they get hospitalized, it's very public. When Damar Hamlin went down, he can't help it. It was on national TV. We all saw it. You can't, there's no privacy anymore. So people might as well tell the truth.
We heard a lot about Jamie Foxx, but you had Mike Tyson. He said exactly what you said, that Jamie Foxx suffered a stroke and he's not feeling well. Okay. I've heard that the family at one point was preparing for the worst. Okay. In other words, we're getting what's going on, that we're getting mixed signals on what's actually happening with Jamie.
His agent ought to organize a press conference, have the doctors come out and tell the truth. If on face value he's had a stroke and it's hospitalization and rehab for a month, all I'm telling you as a doctor, I take care of stroke patients, it's a serious stroke. It is not a minor stroke when you're out of commission for a month, and that's my concern.
Are you familiar with the actor Lance Reddick? He was on The Wire. It could have been that too could have been a vax injury. He's one of the stars of The Wire. He was found dead at 60. They hurried up and shut up the story with him, and they said it was heart disease, but his family has publicly questioned the heart disease story. Do what are your thoughts of that? To where every time we have something happen, they want to blame it on they have a bad. Why are so many people having bad hearts?
Well, Jimmy, let me give you a perspective. Before COVID,
Okay.
out of all the deaths in the United States, 40% are due to known heart disease, 40% known cancer, and 20% other known causes, like drug overdoses, suicides, car accidents, things like this. But the point is, it's always known. So the next time we hear about a public figure, let's say that the actor you just showed, he's my age. Come on, this guy is fit as a fiddle. And he suddenly dies. The cause is known. It's not unknown. And what I've said is all these unknown deaths, and we've seen hundreds and hundreds of athletes suddenly die. You know, John Stockton, who used to play guard for the Utah Jazz, you should have him on your show. He's keeping track. He's keeping track, Jimmy. And you know what? Of these athletes, when a cause of death is unknown, what I say is that it's the COVID-19 vaccine until the families come out. Now, if the families come out and say they didn't take the vaccine, we'll rule it out. But the vaccine causes sudden death. That's proven in the literature. We should assume it's the vaccine until they tell us otherwise.
Doctor, what is the long-term effects of the shot, of the vaccine? What's the long-term effect? What are we possibly, and I know that I'm kind of asking you to make a prediction, but what's the what are we possibly looking at?
There was a recent study published in, out of a database of millions and millions of retinal artery scans, hundreds of thousands of cases organized into those who took the vaccine and those who didn't. 2 years after 2 shots of Pfizer, 2 years afterwards, and the retinal scans done by doctors showed blood clots going into the arteries and the veins of those who took the vaccine at a much higher rate. What we're looking at here is, I think we're looking at skyrocketing rates of heart attacks, strokes, myocarditis, blood clots. I think we're going to see this for many years. This large study indicates even 2 shots changes the human body for the long term.
I was raised up, I was raised up on vaccines all my life. I'm sure maybe you have, but this one's different. This is a different vaccine. What is it that's so different? Is this vaccine, is this their way of cutting down the population? I'm sorry. I just went there, doctor. I'm sorry.
It's impossible to assign motive. But what I can tell you is, like you, I took all the vaccines. My kids took all the vaccines, every single one of them on the schedule. I went to India. I took some more vaccines. So, you and I, we don't have problems with vaccines. We're not anti-vaxxers. You can't be an anti-vaxxer if you took all the vaccines. So we took all the vaccines, but these are different. And I didn't take the COVID vaccine, and boy, I never would, because it's the genetic code for the lethal spike protein. That spine on the surface of the virus is lethal. That's what causes people to die of COVID. This is the genetic code for the lethal protein. Some people must take up too much of this stuff, produce too much spike protein, and it's lethal. So it's too risky of a shot. The shot, as it's conceived, is too risky for anybody to take, in my view.
Can you make a correlation between vaccines and autism?
There's about 80 papers.
I know that wasn't a fair question. But let
me just say, there's about 80 papers in the peer-reviewed literature that are pointing to the association. And, as I look at it, what's happened is, when you and I were kids, I may be a little bit older than you, but you and I were kids, there was, basically just 3 shots, and then the oral polio vaccine. That was it. A kid today now faces 72 shots, not including COVID. And it's what I call hyper-vaccination. So what it is I think it's too many shots all at once causes an inflammatory reaction in the brain. It's not any specific vaccine, but it's too much altogether. Some of these illnesses that we're giving vaccines for, the illnesses themselves can cause brain damage and injury, like rubella or polio. Some of them are neurotropic. So the point is, I think it's hyper-vaccination. So there are some vignettes where a child gets like 6 shots, has a febrile seizure, and then afterwards is never the same. The parents will say, gosh, the autism started after they got that bundle of shots. And I've had those patients in my practice. So I think the answer is yes. I think hypervaccination in some unlucky people is related to the development of autism. So we know autism occurs with parents who are older parents, and also when there's a sibling with autism. So that implies that there's some genetic susceptibility, probably age of parenting, and then hypervaccination. Though I'll say this much. The studies that look at going natural, Jimmy, that is taking no vaccines, parents who say, listen, I'm out. The kids who go natural, they look great. They have much lower rates of all kinds of childhood problems, asthma, need for tympanostomy tubes, allergic rhinitis, dermatitis, and lower rates of neuropsychiatric syndromes. So it looks like so far going natural at this point in time is probably the best health choice for young parents.
Doctor, I'm going to wrap this up, but I got just a couple more questions, please, if you just bear with me for a minute.
Yeah.
Is this over? Is this vaccine thing over? Or are they going to try to come up with something and force another vax on us?
The vaccine agenda is not over. There's aspirations out there for vaccinating against many, many diseases. And those who are vaccine enthusiasts, for example, they've just fast-tracked the respiratory syncytial virus. RSV is a very mild infection in babies. We give some nebulizers and they get better. They've just completed clinical trials in pregnant women trying to make the babies immune. It didn't even work very well. So no, I don't think it's over at all. I think those who are advancing the vaccine agenda want to see as many injections as possible.
What's their plans for the Americans that do not and will not get injected? What's their plans for them?
I see more pressure, coercion, and threat of reprisal. It seems like anybody who refuses a vaccine is going to really receive some difficult punishment in the months and years ahead.
Like we may not be able to buy or sell goods or even associate in public?
We've already seen people lose their jobs over it. That's pretty severe. And then mandates come in for completely ineffective and unsafe vaccines. We don't know where this is going to end right now, but it's not looking good.
Here's my last question for you, Dr. McCullough. What do you want the people to know, or what do you want the people to do?
I want people to know that this very uncomfortable vaccine agenda can be broken in a second if every American steps up and says, you know what, no more. I'm not going to take any more of these shots. And then for the childhood vaccine schedule, for parents to either make some choices on what's reasonable, what's really necessary, or get a second opinion. But this idea that we're all going to line up every 6 months and take a COVID shot is just not going to fly. And if people dropped it right now completely, then all these mandates would fall, everything would fall. But it's people giving in and saying, you know what, I'll just take it for my job. That's the problem. Or I'm going to take it for the Screen Actors Guild or for the NFL. We've already gone through these examples. These young people don't need a vaccine. You and I don't need a vaccine. We've already had the illness. It's not medically necessary. It's not clinically indicated. They're not sufficiently safe, and they don't even work. So there's just no reason to take a COVID-19 vaccine. Everybody should say no.
Dr. McCullough, thank you so much for bringing your expertise, your knowledge, your wisdom. I'm going to tell everybody I want people to follow you. I want them to keep up with you. Go to petermcculloughmd.com. Dr. McCullough, thank you so much. We're going to be right back on Jimspiracy with the Book of James. Doctor, we'll see you later. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Jim.
Before I go any further, let me thank Dr. McCullough for coming in, sharing his knowledge with us. I mean, it's a shame you got to come to Jimspiracy just to get a little bit of truth, just a little bit of knowledge. But hopefully you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. And let's go ahead and wrap this up, man. I'm going to go ahead and give you something from the Book of James. This one here, I don't know if you've ever heard this, Chris. This is, I'm gonna quote some. This is from the book of Luke. This is Luke 2, verse 8 through 14. Okay? I want y'all to check this out, right? And this starts off by saying that, and they were in the same country, shepherds abiding in the fields. So they was keeping watch over their flock by night.
You're doing Christmas in May, huh?
Can you let me talk? You acting like somebody else, man.
All right, preach it. Preach it.
It said, and behold, the angel of the Lord came upon them, and the glory of the Lord shone round about them. Now, I'm going to go back for a minute because there's different versions of that. And one version says, and behold, the angel of the Lord stood by them, and the brightness of God shone all around them. But what part didn't change was it said, and they were so afraid. And the angel said unto them, fear not, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy. And this shall be a sign to all the people. For unto you a Savior is born, who is Christ the Lord, in the city of David. And it says that this shall be a sign unto you, and you shall find the babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in a manger. And then it says that suddenly there was an angel with a multitude of the heavenly army, praising God and saying, glory to God in the highest, peace on earth, and goodwill toward man. Okay, now some of y'all like, what's that? What did that mean? Well, it means a couple of things. Because it said that the men was working in their fields. And it said that something came down. And whatever this was that came down lit up everything. Lit it up so bright that it scared people. Okay? See, to me, that's just called a sign from the sky. It's a sign that lets you know that Jesus is coming. Hey, man, look, the world is in bad shape, man. Okay? Remember, it was an angel that told Joseph to flee with Jesus because Herod was killing babies. And that's why Jesus had to flee to Egypt. Remember, they had to put Moses in a bread basket. Okay, and he had to flee. Moses was coming up in that time where the firstborn was killed, right? And they called it the first Passover. And you had to take the blood of a lamb or an ox or something and put it over your address of your house, right? Okay. I'm simply saying to all of you all, man, we come up in a time right now, one of the things that everybody's arguing about is they think it's okay to kill a baby. You think it's okay to do that? Hey, man, they've been doing that. They've been doing it. And one of the things I never hear people talk about, nobody ever talks about, and I'm going to mainly talk about women. See what I mean? Look, see, that's what happens.
Interruptions.
You don't ever hear women talking about abstinence. The Bible speaks of abstinence. We know that if you go out and have unprotected sex, if you're lucky, you'll have a baby. If you're lucky. Nowadays, you can come up with a whole lot more. And now, I mean, man, listen, read your Bible and look at all of the great leaders that have come our way that wasn't from the traditional way that we want to call it, a husband, a wife. I'm just simply trying to say that this world is messed up. And we are in a situation that the only thing that's going to save this world, the only thing that can help this world is Jesus. Quit letting the world tell you that, oh, we can fix your problem. We can suck that problem out of you and your problems will be gone. No. We need God to take care of us. We can't take care of ourselves. That's why we don't float down from the sky and light up the darkness. You understand? This is why that story of Jesus is so important. Okay? Because right now, more than ever, we need Jesus. And that's my story for Jim Spears. And
Amen.
As always, let me say this to you. May the Lord watch between me and thee while we are absent, one from the other. Amen. Keep Chris in your prayers. Keep me in your prayers. You pray for me like I'm going to pray for you. And we're going to try to make it through this thing, all right? We'll see you again on Jim Spears. Much love.
Give them what they want, what they need, what they ask for. Give them what they want, what they need, what they ask for.
Yeah, are you not entertained? Ain't this what they tell you hustle for? I'm on my gladiator monologues, Russell Crowe. And honestly, I don't see what the fuss is for. You let your money blow and all we tryna do is sow it. Just so you know, this is Kingdom Biz. No Brooklyn Nets, I think we know who team this is. Come on, come all, and don't forget to bring the kids. And y'all gon' need a different planet just to dream this big. So bring your stacks to the table, and I'ma bring my faith. And at the end of the day, we gon' see who win in this race. And since God is the judge, he'll probably throw out my case. So do us a favor, get that look off your face. They be like, you spit that fire, got them industry raps. Why you doing that Christian rap? Nobody listen to that. Then I reply with a sigh like I'm missing the fact. I'm trying to spread this holy gospel till my Savior get back.
I'm going in one time, these record labels all in my face, trying to forfeit my race, but still I'm going in one time. No matter.
Did you want to say anything about the NBA Finals? You keeping up?
Man, come on, man. This is gonna be the Miami Heat against the. I don't like nothing from Denver. I don't
Jokic?
I don't like nothing from Denver. I don't like Denver Nuggets. I don't like Denver fries. I don't like Denver chicken. I don't like nothing from Denver. Nothing. I don't like horses. I don't like nothing from Denver. I don't like Rockies. I don't like nothing.
What about Miami?
Hey, man, I love Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler's a real one, okay? I love him. And I think, what's the guy's name that just got kicked out for flashing a handgun? Hey, man, you can be, already. Yeah, Ja Morant, whatever his name is. Hey, man, you can be about that life, and you don't have to. I mean, in other words, you can beat somebody's ass, and you ain't got to flash a gun doing it. Okay, done. All right. Hey, man, I got much respect. I'm looking forward to seeing Miami take that, and then I want to see if LeBron James is going to be on the sidelines like, yeah, this is my team. This is my team. But then Dwayne Wade going to come up to my, it surely is. Okay, come on, man.
They need what they ask for. Give them what they want, what they need, what they ask for. Give them what they want, what they need, what they ask for. Give them what they want, what